Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show.
Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Desmond Clark on the line. He's co-owner and VP over at The Insurance People, and he's also author and keynote speaker over at Des Clark Speaks. Desmond, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so exciting in today's topic. So we're going to talk about principles of winning. Lots of business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives listen to this show today, and we all want to win. So I'm excited to get your insight on this. But before we do, just to give everybody a little bit of your background, tell us a little bit more about how you got started in your career in business.
Yeah, so after transitioning, after 12 years in the NFL, I had to find what was going to be the next chapter. And as you know, playing in the NFL, that's short-lived. So when I retired at 34, I got into the financial industry, but my passion is really about inspiring people, sharing experiences, and helping those people get to the next level and helping them being even better than they are now. And I really believe like life is simple. Not to say that it's easy, but it's simple, and we make it harder than it has to be sometimes. So sharing simple perspectives and sharing simple mindsets, I believe that's the way that I was able to be successful in my NFL career and now in my professional career of being an insurance agent and a speaker. And I like to share those experiences to help other people get to where they're going as far as their vision for their life and their family.
Now that's awesome, and I also think that's a great transition. So let's just dive into today's topic. So principles of winning. Where do you want to start? So this is a big topic. I mean, and this is the thing, like everybody wants to win, but how many of us really know how or have those real nuts and bolts ways to kind of achieve our goals? So I'd love to hear your input on this.
Yeah, you know what, Adam? I think we all know how to win. And I was just having a discussion with a good friend of mine yesterday. It's the difference between taking what you know intellectually and applying action to it. And first, it has to start with, just knowing the basics of what you need to do. And really, most of the time, those basic things are things that we've been knowing all of our life. We know that we got to work hard. We know that we have to focus. We know that we have to think positive. But when you're able to tell some of those, when you're able to deliver some of those principles from a different perspective by using storytelling, now it clicks into people. And now you have to move them towards action. Now that they got it, now what's the action that you have to take? So I believe a lot of people know how to win, but it's those challenges that get in the way, the challenges of, man, I got to get up an hour earlier and go to the gym 4 times a week. That's the challenge that people have to get over. So it's not necessarily knowing what to do. It's getting over the challenge to know that once you get past that obstacle, there's where your pot of gold is lying.
What do you think are some, and I know this is going to change, by the way, from person to person, from situation to situation, but what do you think are some of those like common things that just kind of hold people back? Because like you said, intuitively, nobody wants to lose. What kind of holds people back, do you think?
I think one of the concepts that I teach is embracing your situation. And a lot of times you hear people, they rather be doing something else. They rather be in better shape. They rather be making more money. They rather be doing something else than what they are their present circumstances. And I think a lot of times that's where it breeds a lot of the anxiety, it may be jealousy or whatever it is And I always tell people, okay, let's start with right now where we're at, and let's embrace the present. And once we can embrace the present, now we can ask ourselves, now what do we have to do to get to where we want to go? But first, it starts with embracing the present, recognizing where you're at this time, and just knowing you can't be anywhere else right now but where you're at now. Now what do you have to do? So I think that's the first thing, is that we sometimes just don't come to terms with where we're at in the present.
Man, that's great advice, and I get that. And that's one that I still struggle with. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, where am I at right now, though? Hold on, I know you want to do, I know where you want to be, I know different things, but where are you at right this moment? Like, it's hard to kind of take that step back and reassess the overall situation. So Desmond, I wanna give, and again, in a 10 to 15 minute podcast interview, we're not gonna solve everybody's problem, but I do want to give my audience maybe some tools, or a tool, I should say. Like, what's something that the listeners that are listening in right now can do, like today? I'm a low hanging fruit guy. I'm like one of those. If you start a little bit, you might have a little bit of baby success, and then maybe you could build on that. So that waking up multiple times a week. I'm just trying to go one step first, please, and let me do that up 2 weeks in a row. What's that low hanging fruit that people can start thinking about working on today?
Right. And that low-hanging fruit is start to build relationships. And the way that you can build relationships, people are not mind readers. I mean, I guess there's some out there, they say.
I'm not, whatever.
Exactly. So you have to start to tell people what it is that you are trying to accomplish. And it just puts yourself out there. But when you start those relationships, you also have to add value to those relationships. So now you got to be curious about the other person also, as you want them to be curious about you. Because in a relationship, if you can add value, you become more valuable. So I think this world revolves around people and relationships. There is nothing that happens in this world without a person being some type of way connected to it. So the more people you can know, the better relationships you can have, the more you're going to be able to do in this life. And you know this, Adam, great teams are what win championships. You don't win championships by yourself. Even in the sports where there's one tennis player, that tennis player has a coach, a nutritionist, trainer. That player has a team of people around him. So it's the same thing in life.
Man, I love that. That's well said. And that low-hanging fruit part, I love. And now I'll just have to give my plug for technology on this one. When you talk about building relationships and being able to connect with people, it's never been like this. When I think about it, and I'm going to get into these kids these days, Desmond. Like these kids these days and their technology and all their fancy social media. And I'm a millennial, but I don't care. I'm like, man, I was around when Facebook was just starting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it made things so much easier. So now to stay connected with people and to be a part of and build these relationships, even from a long distance, it's just so much easier than it once was. Once upon a time, you had to make a real concentrated effort in the past. Now, it's, in my opinion, it's easier to build deep relationships and more based on the way we can connect, and we don't have to necessarily always be in person and those kind of things.
I think that's absolutely. I use LinkedIn all the time. That's how you and I got started.
There you
LinkedIn.
go.
And I've gained so many powerful relationships on LinkedIn. I've gained so many opportunities to get out and speak to different companies just by me reaching out to people on LinkedIn. Hey, do you have 15 or 30 minutes? Let me tell you what I do. Let me hear what you do. And let's see if there's value that can be exchanged there. And you're right. It's so much easier now than having to, just talk to somebody on the phone, or you got to drive 30 minutes to go and meet with somebody every time you're trying to have a connection or a relationship built.
Like I said, these kids these days spoil, and adults, the ones that are on board with technology. Don't fight LinkedIn. I tell my audience all the time, like, they're not paying me for plugging this, but you need to be on LinkedIn. If you're watching this and you're in any type of any profession now, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing now, you should be on LinkedIn. I don't care if you're a musician, entertainer, does not matter. Athlete does not matter. Should be on LinkedIn because all the people that you want to meet are there, and the decision makers for and those relationships, like you said, you started cultivating relationships early in your career. This wasn't
right.
like saying, how am I going to do this? What's going to happen? In 20 years, I'm going to start building relationships. That's 20 years of lost relationships. It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And I was just going to say, when you go on LinkedIn, it's not necessarily about always trying to sell a product or a service. Mm-hmm. You're selling yourself. Use LinkedIn to position yourself in the market as a thought leader, as someone who is, the expert in the field. And if you put out great content, people will want to come and check you out, and they'll want to connect with you and hear more from you and learn more about you if you do it properly.
That's awesome and well said. So, Desmond, that being said, if somebody is listening to this and they do want to connect and follow up to learn more about Des Clark Speaks or also the insurance people, I mean, what's the best way for them to connect with your work overall?
I mean, the best way is just to, as they used to say back in our day, hit me on the hip.
That's a good one.
The cell phone, 863-581-5161. And people are like, whoa, man, you always giving out the cell phone number. But I put it on all of my posts. And I guess the other best way is to follow me on the social media outlets like LinkedIn. And you can just look me up, Desmond Clark, on there. Instagram, Des Clark 88, and that's Des Clark that's DEZ Clark 88. Same thing on Twitter, Des Clark 88. Or just go to my website, www.desclark with a Z. Speaks, DesClarkSpeaks.com.
Oh, man, you hit us with a hit me on the hip. I haven't heard that one in a while, and what a great episode. I've done almost 3,000 episodes, and this is my first hit me on the hip. I love it. This is good.
Yeah. Taking it back to the 90s.
I'm in. What's that number one more time? They probably didn't have time to write it the first time. What's the number one more time?
Yes, sir. 863-581-5161.
Fantastic. Well, Desmond, awesome having you on the show today. Appreciate you sharing your insight on what it takes to win. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Desmond, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Adam, for having me.